right, so we are back with another episode of Lost in Translation. We've been churning these out. We are here today with a longtime basketball guru. He's been 18 years at Milton Academy, which is one of the premier prep school programs in the country. Before that, he had a coaching career at the college ranks, Harvard, Boston University. He's the athletic director. He's the head men's basketball coach. He's dad. He's basketball lifer. Lamar Reddicks, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
you being here.
So, I always ask this question, and I'm curious, for someone, like, what does the sport of basketball mean to you at this point in your life? You've been around the game for so long, so many different sort of points in your life, but just like, when you take a step back, what does the game of basketball mean to you?
That's just a great question. It means a lot to me still. To have have my children who are involved in it right now is pretty awesome, and seeing that they're passionate about the sport. A great example is my son got up this morning at 5:30 to leave to go for a workout at 6:15, and then he'll go to work from there, and then later on this afternoon we'll train with his trainer, and it's not because I told him to do it, it's because he wants to do it. So he's chasing this basketball thing in ways that are awesome to watch as a father and a coach, So, and my daughter's no different. She's doing strength and conditioning 3 times a week, and she is, she trains with her trainer once a week. And so they're both chasing this thing in their own way, which is pretty cool. And they'll both be in high school. My daughter, as an 8th grader last year, was on the varsity team, and so it's kind of fun to watch them kind of go through their own journey. So what basketball means to me, it's been a lifetime passion for me in so many different ways, and I think it's allowed me to be able to travel the world. I've been to different countries because of it. I've been all over the United States because of it, and so I think it's been a gift that has been given to me. And so, and conversely, I'd like to be able to be able to give back. And so that's what I feel like me being the coach at Milton Academy allows me to be able to do, is to be able to give back to the game of basketball, who has given me so much.
So you are a Milton Academy Hall of Famer?
There's no Hall of Fame at Milton. Everyone at Milton Academy is a Hall of Famer.
Everyone's a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well said. Well said. Now you're in charge of the athletic program.
Correct.
So with the experience that you've gained throughout all these years,
yeah.
What made you go back there and because from every player that I've talked to that's played for you, they always talk to me about the community aspect that you bring to Milton Academy.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. So
I think in every sense of the word, I try to be my authentic self to anyone that I talk to, but my players especially. I think if the commitment for a kid to say that they're going to come leave their situation to come play for me, I think says a lot about that kid. And so for me, there's no doubt about I'm going to push that kid as much as I possibly can to be the best version of themselves. But I also, I take that as a big responsibility that they've come to play for me. And so I'm going to love them like they're my own child. And I think they feel that. And no doubt about it that, like I said, I'm going to push them, and I'm going to correct them when they don't do the right things. And I'm going to, be a person that's in their corner no matter what. And that's beyond Milton. That's when they graduate. That's when they get married. That's when they have hard times in their lives. And I think that's, to me, there's no other way that I could do this, right, other than to do that. Like, Dennis Clifford, I talked to him last week. I talked to, I had 2 or 3 alums come and work out at the gym yesterday. So I stay involved with my alums all the time. My current guys who are playing in college, I make sure I go see a game of theirs. Fortunately, I have a couple guys in the Ivy League, so I can knock off 2 birds with 1 stone, which is really helpful. But my feeling is I always want to be supportive of them and what they do at Milton and beyond Milton.
I wanted to say, I had a conversation not that long ago with a friend of mine, and we were talking about college coaches and even high school coaches, and we were talking about how, the great coaches are the ones that they genuinely care about you, and they care about you when you're no longer winning games for them, or you can't win games for them, and help their record and help them get a bigger paycheck and all that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, it's such a rarity that we didn't play for many people that we felt like actually cared about us outside of the sport, or we even heard from once we were gone.
Right.
And I'm wondering, where does that come from for you? Because even though it seems like the right thing to do, so many coaches, they don't do that. And I get it's a business, and you get caught up in the one bad year you can lose your job. But whatever the reason is, so many kids are like, once I'm no longer winning games for them, I don't hear from them, or I got hurt, and then I felt like I didn't matter until where did that come from for you? The staying involved with your players long after they're no longer being able to win games.
So I've never felt like basketball should be transactional, right? And I think that's where it is now. And I think even before it got to the point that it is now, that it's kind of always lent itself to be that way. I look at the game as, I think if I pour my heart into our guys, they're going to pour their heart into playing for me. And so that's the way that I've always looked at it. And, fortunately for me, I've had phenomenal coaches. My high school coach was a Hall of Fame coach. We won a state championship. He had won several state championships. And so that's kind of all I've known. And then my college coach at Bentley was the same way. I model my program after what I've seen him do in terms of caring for the individual, caring for my teammates, and so that's all I've really known. And we just talked about a little bit, when I worked for Frank Sullivan, he was the same way. And so I just have been around great mentors that allowed me to see the game this way, and so there's no other way that I could possibly do it than to have it this way.
So I'm hearing a couple of things here. One, you mentioned that basketball's gone into a transactional phase. So we've gone from what I would probably call transformational, what coaches used to be. They transform you into something better or someone better. Yeah. Now into transactional. So we've got kids, and I can imagine that at Milton, the pressure academically is pretty high. You're coming to an athletic program that has won and expects to continue to win. So now you're dealing with young men and young women who are dealing with pressure from both sides.
Correct.
With the addition of social media and external validation. So what's your philosophic outlook on how do you handle when you see that going on? How do you handle that with your kids as you see that going on? Because maybe you can see it, they can't.
So I think there's a couple things that you touched on there. One, I think finding the kid that fits Milton Academy and our basketball program is a difficult thing. And so I do a lot of work screening families, screening kids, and making sure that they know what they're getting themselves into. So we've had the expectation that we're going to be a good basketball program, and so that's kind of been the expectation, right? And so, one, you have to know that coming into it. Two, Milton Academy of the school is a high academic school, high achieving school, and you have to know that coming into it too. Those type of kids are rare, but those type of kids, there's enough of those kids out there that you can find. And when you get into an environment like Milton, you're going to be pushed, and I'm very clear with kids that you are going to work harder than you've ever worked academically, no doubt about it. And then I'm going to push you to work as hard as you've ever worked athletically. And if that's not what you want, then this is not a great fit. And so I think, again, it's being authentic, it's being clear about expectations, and it's being transparent to families for sure. And that's kind of what I've tried to do every time I'm trying to recruit kids. And I think the environment caters to itself. I think when you get to Milton Academy, the football team, the girls soccer program, the field hockey program, like, you have all these athletes who are trying to achieve the same type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone pushes each other. And so that's if you are into it, this is a great environment for you to thrive in, because you're going to be around like-minded kids who are going to achieve high things in the classroom and achieve high things in their particular sports. And so one of my best things is, like, we usually take a few football kids on our team, and some of them are really good basketball players and some of them are just really great athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to push our guys going to be super competitive and push our guys every single day. And we need to have those kids. We need those kids. And also, like, I look at my son's friend group, like, they're all people who are going through the same thing that he's going through right now. High academics, and then they're all trying to push themselves as athletes. So I don't think it's a big deal for my son to get up at 5:30 this morning to get to a 6:15 workout, right, because his friends are doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, his best friend's doing it. His other buddies doing it. Like, they're all doing some version of that. Mm-hmm. So it's the expectation. And so in our program, you guys know Austin Hunt. Like, you know what? Austin Hunt probably shot every single morning. Him and Nick Petronio, those two guys probably shot every single morning. And so guess what? My son watched them forever, and he was like, guess what I need to do every single morning is go get shots up. And so as a coach, I don't have to say, hey, you need to get shots up. Like, the program has dictated that this is what we do. And so Milton Academy has dictated that we are a high achieving school. And so kids have to work their tails off, and that's what kids do. And so I've been beneficiary of all this.
I'm still thinking of Austin Hunt and that steal. Man, that was beautiful.
It's one of the best plays around. Like, I told you, that play in itself is the best Milton Academy basketball play. And it's so funny. Many people have asked me, like, hey, coming out of that timeout, did you know that they were going to run that play and you guys jumped it? I said, absolutely not. I said, no. And what happened there was you have a great basketball player who made a great play. Now, the things that, like, when I watched that play, and I actually watched it yesterday because I was showing a potential student athlete that play, and everything went the way that we coach it. Okay. Every switch that we're supposed to do, every handoff that we're supposed to, every read. So our program, fundamentals and the things that we have prided ourselves on, took care of the whole entire play. And so the switch happened naturally because, hey, if this guy does this, then you're supposed to do this. And that's what happened. So we had at that time, our 5 best players in the game, and they switched everything perfectly, and that play had no chance of running because we were locked in, right? Did we know what play they were going to? Absolutely not. But our principles on defense all were accountable, and that's why it led to that play. And Austin, just being a great basketball player, was able to read that, and it was it's awesome. I can watch it every single day. I might watch it later on today.
I'm curious for you, and this is another sort of one of those general questions, but I like to know because everyone's story is different. I always use Bobby as an example. You look at Bobby, he's 6'9".
Yeah.
If he played basketball in the later era, they'd probably list him at 6'11".
Of course.
And you think, oh, this guy must have been basketball from the time he woke up. But he didn't even get into basketball until he was almost in high school. Yeah. He was a theater. So for everyone, it's different. And you've had this beautiful, long relationship with the game of basketball. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, where did it begin and how did it begin for you? And why hoops?
I always tell people it's the one sport you just need yourself in the basketball, right? So I didn't need to have 4 or 5 friends or anyone to hit grounders to me or to throw baseballs to me. I could go take a basketball and go play outside on my own, and I can go up to the park and play on my own. If somebody else showed up, then sure, great, I can play against them. Or if there was fives happening, I can jump into a game. So it was a thing that, like, it was me versus myself, right? So that was my biggest competition, and I never focused on other people other than one of my best friends in high school, he lived around the corner from me, and so if my family was going out to dinner or something, we drove by his house and he was outside shooting. I was upset. I was like, can you drop me out? Like I want to go back and go work out because he's training right now, and I want to make sure that he doesn't get ahead of me, right? Like we were the same position. He was my best friend, but you know what? Like that was the competition. So again, you know, for me, to be able to just be able to take a basketball and be able to train on my own was super important. So anytime I had the opportunity to go to a camp or anything like that, which is so different than probably everyone now, which everyone goes to camps all over the place, but like I had to work for or had to, you know, cut some grass, someone's grass to be able to do it. So for me, there was a real appreciative thing about going to the camp, and then, you know, back then you used to get, you know, a little evaluation, right?
I remember those.
Yeah, I would take those things super critical, right? Like, when you can't go to your left hand, I'm going to show you I can't go to my left. So now I literally would come home from camp and go up to the park and start working on my left hand. Like that was who I was. Like, you know, so that drove me. Those were the things that kind of drove me.
I'll never forget. I was in maybe the 7th grade, so this would have been like the summer of '97. I did the Harvard basketball camp. I could always shoot. Like I was very athletic as a kid. Like basketball was, I didn't get my dad's height. He was like 6'7". He played out of UMass, unfortunately. But I could jump, I could run, I could skilled, but I could really rebound for my size. But like I was a great shooter, and I had the worst shooting week of my life at the Harvard camp. And my evaluation, man, that thing. Oh my God, I was just stewing on that. It was like on the 3 through 5, and it was like, there were like a lot of 5s for different things, but it was like 3 for shooting, and I was I just went to the park every day for like weeks after that to shoot. I go down to the park down by the Charles River right across the street from Harvard, you know, and just be like...
Maybe someone sees me.
Yeah, exactly, just like shooting. Like I remember that you just struck a chord with the evaluations I used to get.
I took those. I remember coming from Salem State Camp, and I remember looking at my evaluation, and they were like, you can't go to your left. Now, oddly enough, like I got to the point where I actually couldn't go to my right hand anymore because I worked on my left hand so much that I felt more naturally better going to my left hand, and I couldn't finish with my left hand. Now that still holds true today. Like if you ask me to make a left hand layup, that might be problematic for a while.
Where did you grow up in
Milton?
Milton, okay.
So I've never lived more than like 13 miles from my house, which is really scary in some ways.
That is wild. That is like, I guess. Obviously, it's an alluring job. You've been there for a long time, but like, what is just that area and that community mean to you? Then, if you've spent so much of your life there?
I think that's a great question in terms of what it means to me. It's been great to have my kids be able to grow up in the same community that I grew up in. I told my son that's going to be really hard for him because he has my name, like he's LJ. His name is Lamar Jr. And everyone's going to know who he is, no matter what he does, which is true. There's still a bunch of my high school friends that live in the town, and there's still like I'll still randomly go to like the corner store, and the lady will say, "Oh, I remember going to the parade when you guys won the championship," or things like that. And so I thought it was an amazing community for me. I felt like my high school basketball team was so successful that it brought our community together, right? In a time where I don't believe that things were always together, right? And so I felt like it was one of those things that brought our community together. I think people still have fond memories of going to the Boston Garden to watch us play, to going out to Worcester to watch us win the championship, to be a part of the parade. Like those type of things I thought were community building. And so Milton Academy is a different subset of Milton, obviously, and so it has its own community in itself. And I've always said this too. It's like there's nothing better than having good sports team. They build community on their own in ways that you can't even try to do something like that. So like when our basketball team, so Austin Hunt's last game of basketball, right? Our gym, you could not have fit another person into our gym, and that's awesome. And it wasn't just like our the kids from our school. It was kids from other schools. It was people from the town. It was the random basketball fan that just wanted to see a great basketball game. And so I remember we lost that game against Exeter, and the guys in the locker room are down and depressed, and a couple guys are crying, and I just said, hey man, listen, there is nothing to be upset about. Like what you just look at what you guys were able to create. People were here to support you guys, like, you know. And so it was pretty awesome because even at the end, the fans started yelling, "We love our seniors," and like it was just awesome. It was a really, really, really awesome thing. And I said, "You guys created that. There's nothing for you guys to hang your heads about. Like, the journey was far greater than, you know, the end reward, which would have been another championship, which those guys had accomplished. But, you know, the journey it's in itself to be the players that they were and to create what they created, and was a pretty awesome thing to be a part of."
So I'm hearing a lot of things here. I'm just listening to you and Sam, and I guess in some ways myself too, when I think about, you know, when I go back into the memory banks. I'm hearing we're talking about the evaluations at this point. You know, you get those evaluations when you're younger. And from both of you, what I heard was that the evaluations mattered, but what mattered more was your perception of the evaluation.
Yeah. That's
so
a good point.
You got up and you practiced, right? Because it meant something to you, not because they said it, but because you wanted to prove to yourself that you were 100%. Better than their perception of you. So now, in this era, you're dealing with kids who, I mean, you've seen with social media and everything else, where they're always, most of the time, I would think they're showing their best selves. Okay, they're never showing that the part of themselves that actually has problems. You know, that is actually worried about something that's going on. In Milton, with the pressure being so high, both academically and athletically, where is that junction where you notice, okay, wait a minute, this is going the wrong way. You know, maybe I need to step in and talk to this child.
I'm very communicative with my guys, so I don't think there's a day if someone does something wrong that I don't speak about it at the moment. And I'm over it too. Like, even if you made a mistake, so I'm one of those coaches that I don't take guys out of the game when they make a mistake. I let them try to play through. One of the biggest things in our program is the next play mentality. So that's super important. And oddly enough, so Austin Hunt Steele, the play before, he turned the ball over. Nobody knows that part of the story, right? Like, but the next play was the most important play, right? Like, so turn the ball over, sure, it happens, right? Like, it happens. It's what it is. It's just part of the game, right? So, but how are you going to let that affect you? And so my biggest thing is, like, all right, you can't let that affect you. You have to be able to get back and be able to get over that and make the next play. And so that's the greatest example of the next play mentality, right? Like, and that happened to win a championship, right? So I think it's important for us to always I tell kids, like, you're going to be coached when you come here. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to point out your flaws, and you need to be able to hear that, because that's the only thing that's going to make you better, is that knowing the things that you can't do. I remember he's going to be an assistant coach for me now this year, but I told him, I said, you can't dribble. Stop dribbling. So either catch and shoot or pass the ball. So he'll tell you. I told him. Because when he dribbled it would go off his foot and out of bounds. And so I was like, all right, we're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
Like, but you have a value. You have a particular gift, and let's exploit your gift, and you can really shoot the ball. And so get your feet set and shoot is every single time you are open.
If you're open, shoot it. That's right.
And if there's a drive to the basket, pass it to someone else. And so we and believe it or not, we laugh about it right now, but it made him a better player, and it simplified the game for him, right? Like, it made it very simple for him. So, and you talked about something earlier when you talked about, like, the social media part of things, and, you know, when guys get offers, like, I never believed in that stuff. I used to be the anti, you know, whatever, rankings and things like that, but unfortunately in this day and age now, it's validating for our kids. So, you know, so I now do promote that stuff, or I tell them to promote it, because it is validating for them. And I think it's, you know, if they put a lot of work into being good basketball players, getting that first offer is validating. You know, getting, you know, a top 10 ranking in New England is validating. And it's not showing off, it's not bragging, it's actually more of a validation thing than it is that from my standards and from the kids that I've
I totally agree with you. It took me a while Because I remember when I was a kid, there was no social media. There was only Street and Smith,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I saw my name in honorable mention. I'm like, that's not good enough. So, you go out and you
There's
practice.
also
what you
only
wanna
one. There was like
move on.
5-star. That was the only basketball camp.
Right,
And there
exactly.
was, when I was in high school, there was like 4 AAU teams in all of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
If you weren't, one of the top 50 players in the state, you weren't.
One of
making
my
the team
kids just
or,
posted he's posted all these things that from the NEPSAC showcase, and half of the people I've never heard of before, and I just started laughing. I was like, I didn't even know that person was there. Didn't know this existed, and so there's a lot of them. So things have changed, obviously.
It's funny, my daughter. So she got her first offer from BU,
which
right?
is great. Congratulations.
And I'm happy for her.
Yeah.
But I was going through this thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, should she post this? Do I
Yes.
want her to post?
Right.
And I'm like, And I'm like, you know what? She worked hard for it.
Yes.
She hadn't played any high school basketball. She just went to the camp, and she did well enough where the coach noticed her. And there's no AAU.
Yeah.
But she told me something that I thought was amazing, and I was like, all right, yeah, just go ahead and do it. She gets up, she goes on her own, to practice. She'll get up, she'll go shoot. She'll wake me up because she wants to go get into the gym. And she says, Dad, it's me against me. I said, ooh. All right, you can post.
Yeah.
You're good. Because she's her own worst critic, but she's also her own biggest cheerleader.
Good.
So I'm like, okay, but I get it, man. I'm just not huge on the offer. So I told her, I said, look, you get to enjoy this one time.
Yeah.
All right. If you get any more, you're not posting them. All right. I'll probably change my mind,
Right.
but
It's a validation thing for them.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
It makes them feel like, whew, all this work I put into it,
yeah.
it's starting to pay off in some way, shape, or form. And again, like you look at, for some people, it may be them boasting but I think the kids that I've come in contact with, it is more of a validation thing than anything else.
Oh, I'm going to listen to sharper coaching minds. All right, okay.
So, did you, just for clarification, did you go to Milton Academy or Milton High?
Milton High School.
You went to Milton High.
Yeah, so what I've done is I've worked at a bunch of smart institutions where the kids have always been smarter than me.
So I was going to ask about the perspective, though, of being someone who grew up in the town and went to the high school in town, the public high school, and you're now coaching, I don't want to say the other side of the tracks, Milton's nice, but it's a very different when you have prep schools in towns or you have prestigious colleges in cities and stuff. You're coaching at a school that takes in kids from all over the country, all over the world, that are very high achieving in all of them academics, many of them athletics, and there can be sort of a come and go, never really have a relationship with the town that you're living in for the better part of however many years they're there. And what's it like navigating that for your kids of I don't want to say that people view it as townies, but you never know about the outlook of the full timers in the town that they're in, and how do you navigate sort of fostering some sort of relationship between the kids and the city that they're guests in for however many years they are?
So very easy for me. So I run camps and clinics in the town of Milton. I'm still staying connected to the town, and I have my players who are working in the camp, and so they get connected to the town. And then I also offer, anytime you want to come to a game, feel free to come to a game. If you want to be a ball boy, ball girl, feel free to contact me, and we can make that happen. So, and then what happens is, what a beautiful thing with my camp is once kids have outgrown the age group, they come back and they're counselors. So those counselors are mixed in with my players. So there's a way for me to be able to give back to the town and for me to be part of the community of Milton, which I think is important. It's important to me, anyways.
I think it's also important for kids that may have be coming from some sort of position of privilege or status or whatever, just being even if you're a great basketball player, if you're a top 50 player in the country, there is a status and there is an aura and there is a pedestal that you're sort of on, and at some point you're going to be humbled in life. You're going to fall no matter how great you are at something, and I think sort of being grounded and being like out in the community and getting to know everyday people and stuff, I feel like that's also in the best interest of the students and the student athletes you have too, because it's like at some point you're going to be a regular person at some point in your life, or you're going to fall and you're going to have to pick yourself up, and just being like, I think a little bit more salt of the earth like helps anyone.
Yeah, and we also my team also volunteers for Special Olympics, and it was a really magical moment. So 2 years ago, there was a team that Special Olympics team that was really good. They were really good, and they were killing all the other teams, and so they just weren't. It just wasn't fair for them to be playing, and so they ended up playing against my guys, and my guys were just awesome. These games where people were booing my guys every time they scored, but our guys were able to really do the right thing and really make this into like a really great event for them. And my head of school had come down to watch, and she brought it up at the beginning of our school year this year, like as one of her favorite moments. And it was a great moment. Like and I don't have to ask these guys to be that way. This is who they are, And so, one thing I realized too, like with all those kids, they all have younger siblings. Almost every single one of those kids that were out there, and so they just knew how to have a gentler touch with kids, and so our kids have been great, and they also have been doing my camps and clinics forever. So I think there's something to be said by them being able to be the people that kids can look up to, literally and figuratively, because most of them are pretty tall.
You just said something again that I need to touch on. So we're talking authenticity here.
Yes.
All right. You mentioned that you look for the right type of kid to come to Milton.
Yeah.
So everybody's not the right type of kid.
No.
All right. So now that leads to my question: Is it sports that builds character, or do you walk into sports with that character and keep building on it? Because you've got to be that person before you even start.
Yeah.
Right? Playing's not going to give that to you. You've got, so I'm trying to figure this out, because I want to get your thoughts on it, because I hear that they have to be the right type of person.
Yes, 100%. So I think that I think you almost need to have it before you get there. Like you need to be a part of who your family is, who you are, your everyday makeup. And also, I've said this a million times, sports brings out the best in people and the worst in people.
So sports doesn't build character, it reveals character.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
And I'm going to bring up not a great memory for you, but but you remember the Nobles game at our place.
Absolutely, I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember this specifically. Your son's crying. As soon as the game ends.
Yep.
Now we were down. We
crushed.
have this crazy comeback to come back and win against our rival. Like it's awesome, right? So it's awesome for Milton, but think about how it feels to be the Nobles guys, right? So we're celebrating. We come back and win like at the buzzer, right? Like
it was beautiful.
It's a crazy game. So as my guys are celebrating, I'm watching the Nobles guys huddle up and they're crying, and I make my guys come out of the celebration to shake hands, because I feel like that is the most important thing at that moment, right? So, and my kids did too. They had no problem coming out and doing that, but they're kids, right? Like they're celebrating this great victory, right? But again, as great of a victory as it was for us, think about how crushing of a defeat that was for those guys. So my thing is, sports brings out a lot, and so that's our rival. So we could easily been like, we'll never shake hands with you guys, and we'll just celebrate. And my biggest thing is like, no, we're gonna do the right thing here, and then we can celebrate. We can celebrate. We'll have plenty of time to celebrate. But I think the sportsmanship of the game is super important to me, and so. And I want to make sure that our guys believe in that.
I'm curious. So you went to Milton. you play at Bentley. How do you get into coaching? Because then you end up coaching Harvard. How does that transition happen? What brought that about?
Gosh, so my senior year, my coach at Bentley says, "Hey, are you interested in getting into college coaching?" And I said, "I think I would be, yeah." At this point in time, I'm accounting major, marketing major, whatever it was, and at that point in time, I never saw myself sitting behind a desk, 9 to 5 and shirt and tie and doing that. And I think I would have been fine if I went down that path, but I never really saw that as my thing, right? So I ended up meeting with Frank, and we have an interview in the cafeteria of Bentley, who he used to be the head coach of Bentley years ago. And so we sit there, we have a conversation, and he hires me in the spot in the cafeteria of
Nice.
Nice. Oh, all right,
wow,
great. So I have a job working at Harvard. Here I am. I have no idea what I'm doing or what just happened. My president of Bentley actually had me over to his house for dinner and tried to convince me to not do that because he thought I'd be excellent in the business world and wanted me to go into the business world. And I said there will always be a time to be able to go back into the business world if I want to. I said I think I want to try to chase this a little bit. And so I was fortunate at 22 years old to be an assistant coach at Harvard.
That's
I was
amazing.
the youngest Division I assistant coach in the country at that time, and I had no idea what I was doing. Some could question whether I know what I'm doing now.
Just learn
at that point in time. And Harvard had a JV team, and so I coached the JV team as well. And so one could look back at it and say, man, it was like another duty. It was like another thing. But it was awesome, and I'm still close with a lot of those kids that I call them kids. A lot of those young men that I coached, I'm still close with some of those guys now, and it really taught me how to coach. Because in my first game I coached, I was pushing buttons. I don't even know if the right buttons. I was just like, all right, you go in, and it was me. It was me by myself, so I didn't have an assistant coach to bounce things off of, and you learn by trial and error, right? And so I figured some things out then, and that experience in itself really, really helped me become a coach, because I had to do it on my own, and I had to figure out what worked, what didn't work, and now it's like secondhand nature to me, right? But I do remember that first day of just pushing buttons and trying this combination and then trying this group and trying this play, and this play didn't work, and so don't run that play again because they stole it last time for a dunk, and so just trying to figure out that, and so it felt like this is where I belong, and then the relationships that I still have with all those young men is powerful, right? So I think that's another thing that makes me feel like this is where I belong.
Let me ask you another question on authenticity. You've had some really good players over the years.
Made me a great coach.
So you've had all type of, I remember distinctly Matt Painter being in the gym frequently. Okay. You've had a chance to meet plenty of college coaches. You were a college coach yourself. You've seen many things that go on. So you get a chance, and I'm saying this just from personal experience. With my son, I was able to be the bullshit detector. Okay. So when you have coaches come in, you know which ones are bullshitting.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And which ones are, right? So are you, when they leave, and you're talking to the kid that they're recruiting, how authentic can you be with the kid?
That's a really good question, and I'll tell you why, because I think that's actually really important. So I feel like in terms of recruiting, my job is to help with just give them answers to things that they probably can't see, right? And or they don't know, hey, listen, this coach is in the last year of their contract. There's a very good chance that they're not going to be there.
Right.
There's a really good chance. Let's just be honest. Or that coach is 67 years old. Think about that. They probably will not be around for year 4. Now at that point in time, that's when kids were going to school and staying at their schools for 4 years. So like, you have to have those kind of conversations with people, or like, hey, listen, the head coach hasn't been here ever. Like, it's only been the assistant coach. That guy's going to probably take another job in a year or two somewhere else. Like, he's going to keep moving, right? Or hey, this coach is really a hungry coach, and so he's recruiting. He wants to win this year, and he's going to probably try to take another job himself. So there are things that I can offer that they won't ever really know, right? And so the coaches with the BS, I'm like, hey, well, just make sure you hear what he said. I'm saying, like, just go home and just think about what he said. And it's like, how many people do you think he said it to? Or, you think you're the only one that he thinks is special? Or, just go back and, evaluate. My job is not to tell a kid where to go. I don't ever feel like that's my job, and that includes my own son. Like I'm trying to stay out of his recruitment as much as I possibly can, and it's my son, right? And so my biggest thing is just to really give you guidance in this process and be able to answer things. I remember a coach wanted me to sit in on his long thing, show and dance that he was going to give the kid, and I was like, listen, you're not recruiting me, because I would already have said yes. I go, but you're recruiting him, and I'm going to stay out of it and let him, let you do your thing, because you don't need to woo me. Like, I'm not the person making the decision.
So who are your mentors? Because what I'm hearing is old school wisdom. My grandmother used to say, I'm not going to tell you what to see. I'm going to show you where to look.
Yes, exactly. That's a great one. So my grandmother is one of my biggest mentors for sure. And I would tell you that, like I said it before, Frank Sullivan, Jay Lawson, those guys were really critical in who I am, and my high school coach, Mike Goodless. They've taught me so much. But I feel like I try to learn from everybody. I'm still continuously, every year I talk about at the camps that I work at, like, hey, my goal is to get 1% better every day. So what does that mean? That means having conversations with other people, talking about what they do, why their programs have been successful, why they've been successful. And if I can take one thing away from that person to make me better, well, great. That's the goal every single day.
That is awesome.
So you made the transition from college to Milton Academy, where you've been now, and I assume that the leaving Harvard was probably prompted by them making a coaching change at the top, and that the assistants go with the head coach. You're a year at BU, and then you got into it. But before we get into the why of that move, I'm wondering, because a lot of people, I think, don't really know what the life is like as a coach, especially a small D1, and the amount of time on the road. And back then, you're having to physically exchange, at least when you started, exchange tape, and
I remember driving to New York to get a tape. Because
there wasn't file transferring back then. Guys had to make these long drives and hand off. At one point VHS, and then they moved to DVD.
VHS,
it's wild.
Yes.
What was the best parts of coaching college when you did, and what were the worst parts of it?
Oh gosh! So at the time, the time was the worst parts. Like, at the time that I can think of just I just think I woke up in the morning, got to work at 7, 8 o'clock, and then drove home at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Like, that was a typical day. That wasn't and vacations didn't mean anything. Holidays didn't really mean anything. They just, like Christmas. I remember Christmas Eve or Christmas night going back into the office because I had to break down film because we were traveling to play Stanford, and the film needed to be broken down because it was VHS, and we needed to figure out that needed to be broken down. And the other team that we were going to play while we were out there, I think we played San Jose State or something like that. So I needed to break down both films before we left and have. So just the hours, at that point in time, it was you spent hours in the office and away from your family and stuff like that. Fortunately, when I started, I was really young, so I didn't have to worry about that. But as family became an option, right? That was one of the things that probably helped spring me to be in the world that I'm in, because I could be around my family more. So I think those are that was the hardest part. The fun part was you got to travel. I got when I was 22 years old, I traveled the country. I was all over the place, and so I've seen parts of the country that I would have never ever seen otherwise, right? And if I had friends that lived in the area, I would try to see them on the front end or the back end of a trip or something like that. And so I thought that was pretty cool at one point in time. Then my last year at BU, I think I figured it out. I was like away from home. I want to say it was like 60 days. Like, you take your night trip, your away trips, the recruiting, and it was just like 40 or 50, whatever it was. It was a lot, like where I did not sleep at home. And I was like, you know what? At this point in time, trying to have a family, that impacted my decision a lot at that point in time.
That makes sense. How do you feel like during your time at Milton Academy, how have you changed or evolved as a coach?
I think every year I reevaluate myself, right? And it's funny because we celebrated 100 years of Milton basketball this past year, right? And we had a bunch of guys come back, guys who had played for me in my first and second year of me being at Milton, and I still run a couple of plays that we've run since then, and they laugh because they're like, "You still run that play?" I'm like, "Well, until someone stops it,
exactly.
I'm going to continue to keep running it, right?" Like, and so, but yes, I still run that play, but I probably got rid of 5 other plays, right? And so, so I continue to keep evaluating like what I do, and then like our roster dictates a lot what we do too, right? Like, so we have 2 6 10 kids this year on our roster, and so we're going to play big, so like where the rest of the world is going small and playing, we're gonna actually zig while everyone else is zagging, a little bit. And so so I just look at what I do every year. I also sit down and talk with college coaches, again, that 1% better, right? So I sit down and talk with all college coaches, what people are doing. I go to a couple of practices every year. Luckily that we're in such a rich area of basketball, right? Like I can sneak over to BC really quickly. I believe Stonehill was having practices at noon, right? Like, so like perfect. Hey, I have a lunch meeting off campus, so I'll see you later, right? And it was perfect. So like you could sneak over and be able to see quite a few practices. Like, I had one of the best days ever. Best 2 days ever, right? So it was a holiday, one of the Jewish holidays. Harvard was practicing in the morning, so I went to their practice at 7:30 in the morning. And then at the time, I know Gerard Mayo and a couple of Patriots coaches, and so then I went to the Patriots practice. Now someone's like, "Why are you going to the Patriots practice?" Well, I'm interested in the organization of how they ran their practice, and now listen, they have 100 different coaches and people and personnel, so their practices are very different than my practice, but they are just so boom, 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 boom on everything that they do, and from this drill to that station to this thing to like, it was really sharp. And not that we don't do stuff like that, but I was just kind of interested in the whole operations part of their practice, and that was pretty cool. And then I got in the car and I drove to the airport and flew out to OKC, and because I had the kid Cormac Ryan, who was in the G League for and so they were in preseason at this point in time, so I got to watch them scrimmage each other, and it was freaking amazing. Now again, they now win the championship, and at this point in time they're favored to win the championship, and you get to watch them, and when you again go back to like, hey, they play the first quarter, go right to watching film, break down. Literally the film was on the court, so like they literally went from the court to the side here, watch film, back to the court for the second quarter, boom, back to and it was just like they were just so on top of things. And so and then I go out to lunch with Cormac afterwards, and I said, hey, just tell me what goes on. He goes, it's just everything is measured, right? So you have no choice but to get better, because if you came out and you took 100 shots yesterday and you made 68 of them, like, well, they're going to chart you and you need to make 70 the next time, and then 72, and so everything is measurable, so they're looking for you to keep improving all the time. And so it was pretty cool. And Sam Presti, as you know, is from this area, so I know him a little bit, and so we talked a little bit, and even Dagnall is from this area too. And so like he was an assistant coach at Holy Cross, and he recruited Dennis Clifford. And so I said, hey Mark, I said, you probably don't remember this, but we've met before in my gym, and I said at Milton Academy. He goes, Dennis Clifford, right away. Pops it.
That's cool.
I was like, wow, you have probably forgotten more names than like any most normal human beings. For him to throw that out there really quickly was pretty impressive.
Well, Dennis is hard to forget.
Yeah, he is. Right. But like it was pretty awesome. And so that 2 days was like, man, that was the best 48 hours I could ever imagine. So you got to see some really, really cool things and see how people run their organizations and like I said, again, not everything that they did translate to what I do at Milton, but there were a couple things there. I'm like, hey, we can sharpen this up. We can do this better. Hey, that drill, if we just tweak it a little bit, it's like the same drill we already run, but a little bit better. So my job is like to continue to get better in every way, shape, or form.
I think the one last question that I have, and I know you've got, so you're on the go, you've got stuff you got to get to, and I don't want to cut Bobby off and step on his toes, but we talk a lot about being dads, and we talk about parenthood and stuff, and you're in a very interesting position of coaching at a very prestigious school and program, and your son is playing for you, and both your kids go there. I think it's a little different with your daughter because she's not playing for you, so you get to sort of, you're an authority figure, you're the athletic director, but it's a little different, the relationship with an AD than the relationship with your coach, who's every practice, and if you mess up or if you do whatever, and those dynamics of how the rest of the team perceives, like he was coaching, I think even at the like middle school level, it's really hard. I remember my dad, he almost never coached me, and he was like, a really exceptional athlete and basketball player. I played for him for a couple of years in like a rec league for basketball when I was in like 5th and 6th grade. I always felt like he was harder on me than everyone else. And I think it was because you don't want the perception of favoring your kid. But when you get to the high school level and then you get to the elite high school level, I feel like there are so many dynamics at play. And I'm just wondering, how do you navigate that of coaching and being a dad and the team's perception and your son's perception, and just like how do you balance all that?
So I think for me, when I'm the basketball coach, I'm not dad. Right, and so I need to be able to treat my son like I treat everybody else on the team, and I think I do a really good job of doing that, because I think that's really important for the other kids to see that for him to be one of the guys, right, and not be, that's his dad coaching, and there's no doubt about it, like I want to be harder on my son, and in those moments, my 2 assistant coaches, that's their job. So when I hire assistant coaches and I tell them, I said, your job is to coach my son, because I'm going to get probably, my expectations for him are going to be higher than any person could possibly be. And so your job is to really coach my son. And so that's the number one thing. And then, we have a great balance. I've learned this from coaching my son for a long time, is that we get in the car, we don't talk about basketball. When we get home, we don't talk about basketball. And I think that helps our relationship. And I think about this all the time. No one else on the team has to go home to the coach. So why should he? And so he should have to go home to his dad. And I laughed. His sophomore year, I buried him. I remember we were playing Rivers, and I just didn't feel like he could play in that game. And so it was high action. It was a lot at stake. He had 2 bad turnovers early, and I think it was more jitters than anything else. And so I just buried him. I went with whoever our backup was for him, and it was an older kid that I just felt had seen this before and can handle it a little bit better. And we ended up losing the game in overtime, or even double overtime. I can't remember, but we lost in overtime, I know for a fact. And I think I got home before him, which usually never happens. I was home and I was sitting on a chair, and he comes in. I know he is upset and angry at his dad, coach, whoever I am at the time. But he just went upstairs to his room, slammed his door, and I said, all right. We're not going to talk about this, which I'm sure there was a lot to talk about. But I think he probably knew that I was upset that we lost the game too. I think he was upset I think he was first and foremost upset that we lost the game. and then probably upset that he didn't have a chance to be able to impact the game, and that was probably one of the harder moments, right? But I really believe in the fact that having great assistant coaches to be able to, because like sometimes when I get angry, I'll just say, hey, can you talk to him about X, Y, and Z, because I know the way I'm going to say it's not going to come out really nice, and so. So I think that's been really important for me, but also knowing the fact that, like, hey, when I'm on the court, I am coach. When I am at home, I am dad. And so, like, how about this? For the past 3 years, we have not gone home together or gone to practice together. He walks home on his own or with his friends and never comes with me or walks home with me. And it's just the way it is, like, you know, and we're going to the same place, but we don't go together, and so I find that to be kind of funny too, that we have a clear separation, and it works. So I think that's been a really good thing. But I'm excited for him to play for someone else. I'm excited for him to, you know, to be able to kind of, you know, do this for somebody else, and me to actually sit back and be a dad and just watch. That's exciting to me too.
Well,
no, I was going to say I think this is a learning experience for me today.
Oh, wow.
You know, I'm going through it with my daughter right now. I try to remain dad.
Yeah.
And at the same time,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
It is crazy, because I didn't coach my son.
Yeah.
You know, I trained him, but I wouldn't coach him.
Yep.
But you know, with my daughter, I feel like that. You know, I think I better coach her a little bit.
Yep.
You know, because I'm not sure, she's so young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I don't want her pigeonholed because the game's different now. You know, she's tall, and you know, she reminds me of. And she's not as good on defense as Anna Lackenauer was.
Oh yeah.
But you know, Anna was long.
She was really
good.
good.
You know, super long, man. And you know, my daughter's the same type.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Anna coming in for training, and you know, she used to, you know, just share her thoughts. And it's different for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's totally different. So I find myself learning every day. So getting a chance to sit here and listen to someone who goes through this with multiple athletes all the time, man. Is, I really appreciate you coming in and
so
sharing.
As
your
I
thoughts.
said, it's hard coaching my son. It's the best thing I've ever done as a coach, is being able to coach my son.
Love it.
The
Okay.
best thing.
That's
like
awesome.
not even close. And when we won, it was his freshman year. We won. So you can imagine we celebrate in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
We're having this great time, and you know, the dust is about to settle. We're about to, you know, get dressed, and it just so happens that my son and I are in the same kind of like stall, and like we have this hug and embrace that I'll never forget ever in my life. Like just like, hey, we did this together, like, you know, and that was pretty awesome. And so how I would love for it to end for us is for that same hug and embrace.
Oh man,
that motivates me this year like no other.
I feel like crying on the podcast.
That is awesome,
Yeah,
man.
it's cool.
That is so awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
thank you for having
Would
me.
love
That's
to have you back.
Absolutely, I
more
can
than
bring
one
Junior with
conference.
us.
That'd be
if you
great.
want.
That would be
Like,
really
you know,
great.
that'd
We'd
be
love to have
awesome.
him.
Love to
Yes.
hear what he has to say.
I would love to have him on too. We should. We'll definitely gonna make that happen. I'm gonna bug you about that, about having both you guys on.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.
We appreciate
having
you.
me.